Hello, my amazing learners, and welcome back to the Wisdom English podcast. My name is Sarah. There is one thing you can do that will significantly improve both your listening skills and your speaking skills in English. In this episode, I'm going to tell you what it is and how to do it. It's a combination of two powerful strategies that can truly change the way you learn. And make sure you stay with me until the very end, because I'll reveal the simple secret that ties all of these strategies together and makes learning English feel more natural and effective. So, let's cut to the chase. The one thing you can do to improve both your listening and speaking skills is this. You need to be using a combination of top-down and bottom-up strategies. It's as simple as that. Now, you might be wondering, what are top-down and bottom-up strategies? Okay, fair enough, and how do you use them? Let me tell you. In fact, let me go the extra mile and also give you a bonus at the end. Some of the best TV series that you can be watching to improve both your listening and speaking skills. Let's dive in. Starting with top-down listening strategies. A top-down strategy is a bit like when a bird is flying high in the sky and looking down. They can see everything below them, the entire landscape. That's why in English we say, a bird's eye view. To have a bird's eye view is to look down and see the bigger picture. When you use a top-down listening strategy, you are listening for the bigger picture. You are not trying to pick up and understand every single word. You are just trying to get the gist. The gist is the general idea, the main point. This is so important because so many students try to understand every single word, and when they can't, they get frustrated and they give up. They can't see the wood for the trees. That's a great English expression. It means they're so focused on the small details, the trees, that they don't see the bigger picture, the wood or forest. So, the first top-down strategy is to just listen for the main idea. Let me give you an example. I'm going to describe a very short scene from a movie, and I want you to just listen for the main idea. A man in a priest's uniform is speaking to a crowd. He says, "As each new day pummels us with a seemingly endless onslaught of fresh horrors, we must not lose faith. After all, this is America, where opportunity awaits around every corner. Can I get an amen?" The crowd shouts, "Amen." Then an elderly woman in the crowd groans and falls over. The priest looks down and says, "Yeah, just put her in the coffin too. They're both pretty small." So, what was the main idea? You may have understood that there's a man, who looks like a priest, speaking to a group of people, trying to motivate them. Then somebody dies and there's a bit of silence and possibly some dark humor. You probably used two things to help you get this main idea. First, you used your existing knowledge. Maybe you know that a man in that kind of uniform is a priest, and priests often talk about faith and try to get a crowd to follow them. The second thing you probably noticed were some key words, like faith, America, amen, and coffin, which is the box we put dead people in. So, even if you didn't understand every word, like pummels or onslaught, you could still get the main idea using your existing knowledge and a few keywords. This is a top-down strategy, and it's really important to use it at the beginning of any listening exercise or whenever the scene changes in a movie. You just want to float up high like a bird, look down, and listen for the bigger picture. The second top-down strategy is to use the context to give you clues. What do I mean by the context? Well, it could be the title of the video, or some images or scenes things within the picture that can help you. For example, if you're going to watch a video clip and you see a picture of a hospital room with two people in white coats, you can guess what the context is. It looks like a hospital, possibly a place of surgery. The people are probably doctors. So, this context gives you clues about what is probably happening. What could they be talking about? Maybe a new medicine. Maybe a patient. Maybe an operation that's going to happen. So, you're using the context to help you understand the main idea. Let's try another example. Imagine you are listening to a conversation. You hear the following words: consent, operate, surgery, psychiatry, and heart. Even if you don't understand the full sentences, you can guess the main idea. The main idea is probably that two doctors are talking about surgery for a patient. And from the word psychiatry, you might guess that the patient is not psychologically ready for the surgery. I also sense there might be a bit of disagreement between the two doctors, and my knowledge of medical dramas tells me that often doctors have different opinions. So again, these are top-down strategies you can be using at the beginning of a listening or at the change of a scene when you're watching something. Now, let's move on to bottom-up listening strategies. This is almost the opposite of top-down. This is more about listening for detail, not necessarily every single word, but getting the specific details you need to understand what's going on. This is really important when you're watching a series or a film. When do you need to use this? If there's a new character in the story, you may need details about them. If there's a change in the plot, or a new idea is being introduced, you might need the details. Or if a name or a number has come up, these are typically when you need to focus on the details. I want to share with you 3 of the most important things you can do here for these bottom-up strategies. First, you should practice noticing stressed words. You may know that in English, we don't pronounce every word with the same emphasis. Take this sentence. Caffeine was an amazing aid to the rise of capitalism. We don't say every word equally. We stress the important words, the content words, like nouns, adjectives, verbs, and adverbs. Most of the other words get reduced or swallowed. They almost disappear. So, what we really hear is, caffeine was an amazing aid to the rise of capitalism. You only need to hear those stressed words caffeine, amazing aid, rise, capitalism to get the detail that you need. So, getting into the habit of noticing the stressed words will help you pick out the important details. Second, you should practice noticing intonation patterns. Now, intonation in English can be challenging, but it's also fun and exciting. There are no fixed rules, but there are some common intonation patterns that are worth knowing. Let me share 3 of them. The first is for yes/no questions, which we call open questions. Questions like, do you like it? Or, do you live here? Usually have a rising intonation at the end. The second common pattern is in 2-clause sentences, like, if I did this, I would do that. For example, if I ate less, I wouldn't be so fat. Or, before I go to work, I have breakfast. There's often a rising intonation on the first clause and a falling intonation on the second clause. And a third common pattern is in lists. When you have a list of things, it often goes up, up, and then down on the last item. For example, I like coffee, tea, and beer. And the third bottom-up strategy is to notice chunks. I talk a lot about chunks. Chunks are basically a few words that are spoken together so quickly that they sound almost like one word. For example, Instead of saying, "Did you like it?" a native speaker would often say, "Did ya like it? It's a chunk." Or, "Did ya find it?" Or, "Did ya enjoy it?" You're pronouncing it almost like one sound. My tip here is that when you're watching videos, you should listen to just one sentence and try to identify these chunks. Then, you can go and look at the subtitles to see the words that are making up the chunk, and then practice repeating the chunk again and again. For example, if you hear the question, "How did you end up opening up food spots?" and you listen to it a few times, you might hear the chunk, "How did you end up?" How did you end up? That's the chunk for, "How did you end up?" It may even help you to write out the letters of the sound, like, "How did you end up?" Picking out just one chunk like this and practicing it is really useful for your speaking skills as well as your listening skills. Now, you may be thinking, where can I find videos with transcripts and the ability to repeat sentences easily? Well, there are many great apps and websites for this. One of my favorites is an app that brings together videos from YouTube but organizes them into different playlists around topics like entertainment, education, food, and even by specific English teachers. The beauty of these apps is that as you're watching, if you want to repeat a phrase or a chunk, you can often put it on an automatic repeat loop. And many of them have the full transcript for every video, and you can even click on a word you don't know to get the definition. It's an amazing way to practice, and I think it makes learning English fun and exciting. You can learn while watching your favorite shows. So, I recommend you go and check out some of these language learning apps. Many are free to download and try. Next, as promised, here is a bonus for you. Some of my suggestions for the best TV series that you can be watching to improve your speaking and listening skills. I've chosen these partly because I think they're good for learners, and partly because I actually loved watching them. I do suggest that you try not to watch the same kind of thing all the time. Even though you might love action movies, you should try to watch different kinds of films and series. You want to be listening to different accents, looking at different contexts, and different genres, because all of that will give you a much wider range of language, which you're going to need to become a better speaker of English. So, let's kick off first with action series. Action series are great because they often have simple language and lots of visual support to help you learn. Apart from the big Marvel series, others that I like are Killing Eve, which is a British spy thriller with suspense, drama, and unexpected twists. Also, His Dark Materials, which is a fantasy drama based on the wonderful books by Philip Pullman. Next, we have sitcoms, or situational comedies. Sitcoms are great because you get very natural, everyday English, lots of cultural references, and you get to learn about the English sense of humor. I highly recommend Ted Lasso. It's the story of an American football coach who comes to the UK to train a Premier League English football, or soccer, club. The hilarious adventures that come about from the culture clash between American and British culture are brilliant. Then there's Mythic Quest. It tells the hilarious story of the staff of a company that creates the biggest multiplayer video game in the world. Next up, we have the news. Two news programs which I think are good because the news gives you lots of rich vocabulary as well as idiomatic expressions. I would recommend Good Morning Britain, which is a more light-hearted look at the daily news, or Panorama, if you like investigative journalism that is not too sensationalist. Next, a couple of drama series. Drama is good, again, for natural conversation, but also for the kind of colorful language you might get, including lots of slang. First of all, Little Fires Everywhere, starring Reese Witherspoon. It's about a picture-perfect family whose lives get turned upside down by the arrival of an enigmatic mother and her daughter. Then we've got The Handmaid's Tale, which is on the more horrific end of the drama spectrum. This is about a futuristic dystopia where the role of women is turned upside down. If you can bear it, go and watch it. It's a great show. Next, I would strongly recommend documentaries because they cover a wide range of topics and a huge range of vocabulary, as well as giving you great ideas for your speaking tests. I would recommend The Social Dilemma, which tells you how social media really works, and also Cowspiracy, which tells you about the real culprit of climate change. Both are really worth watching. Finally, chat shows are brilliant because you get natural conversation on everyday life and popular topics. I would recommend The Ellen Show and The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. In The Late Show, you can see interviews and very candid conversations with celebrities, and also, of course, enjoy Stephen Colbert's rather elegant wit and humor. That's it. Lots of TV series you can use to go and practice your listening and speaking skills and your top-down and bottom-up strategies. The final secret. So, remember, I think in order to really develop your listening and speaking skills, you need a combination of these top-down and bottom-up strategies. At different times, you may be using different ones, but it's important to use them both. And now, for the secret I promised at the beginning. The secret is that the best learners are like detectives. They use top-down listening to understand the whole scene, to get the big picture. And they use bottom-up listening to zoom in on the important clues, the stressed words, the intonation patterns, the chunks of language. You need both of these skills to solve the puzzle of fluency. So, my challenge to you is this. The next time you watch an English video or listen to a podcast, try to be a detective. First, use your top-down skills. Ask yourself, what is the main idea here? Then, choose one short part of the video and use your bottom-up skills. Listen for one stressed word, one intonation pattern, or one interesting chunk. Write it down, practice it. This small habit of being an active, curious detective will completely transform your learning. Please like, share, and subscribe to the Wisdom English podcast channel to watch our next videos.